Hello everybody, and a big welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you're one of my lovely regulars, welcome back. Today I've been sent a nice big box of oil pastels by a company that I sometimes do road tests for, and I'm going to swatch them for you today and also show you how I use them in my mixed media practice, because they do have a place in mixed media. I'm not a pure pastel user by any means. It doesn't matter whether it's neo colors, so oils and things like that, oil pastels, soft pastels, pan pastels. I don't use any of them purely to make a picture. I always mix them with other media, so inks and acrylics and gouache and colored pencils and all sorts of stuff. And I'll be using these exactly the same way. Before we get on to this, if you like what you see here today, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and a comment. I try to get back to absolutely all of them. And if you like my style and my work, do consider joining me on my Patreon. All of the information for that is below here in the description box. So yeah, I would love to see you over there. It would be very, very nice indeed. So let's get on. As I said, I don't use pastels for a complete picture. So if I can show you a couple of examples here of what I do use them for. Here is one, nothing in that one. Here is one particular sketch. Let's make sure I haven't got any light. I've just recently rearranged my desk and I'm not 100% sure if I've gained anything or I've just made a complete mess of something that worked. I like oil pastels because they go over everything, basically, pretty much everything. I've not met many mixed media products where they will not sort of take over, actually. So they're really good for putting on as a final flourish if you want to make a point of something. They're very, very good for that. So I do use them for flowers quite a bit. And I use them for an impressionistic type of flower. So lots of dots and dabs and so forth, to create something that when you stand back from it, you can see, oh, look, a flower. It's not necessarily obvious close up, but as you get back, it certainly is. And I like them for that because they go over the top of these other darker colors. I tend to use a fairly muted color palette, and they go over the top of that and they add such a lovely pop of colors. And they tend to be quite opaque. Now, I've not used these. This is the first time. We're both seeing them today for the first time. So I don't know. These are another pastel. And because we're doing a Lightwish, I won't name them. But if you look at my videos, you can probably pick up what they are. But these are a different sort, but they're oil pastels. The one disadvantage that people always cite with pastels, and oil pastels in particular, is that they don't dry. I doubt this is true. They take a long time to dry, is what I would say. I'm sure over the next few millennia, as archaeologists go through our art desks and pick out our pictures, some of them will have dried. It depends on how heavily you apply them as well. You can apply them with a palette knife, I believe. Again, I'm not a pastel artist. As you can see, this is what I do. And so I'm just making some zines. So I've got little labels. There are that many plates spinning in the air at the moment. It's not funny. It depends how thickly you put them on, and it depends how you use them. I basically just make marks with the pastel like I would a coloured pencil. And here, for example, in this buddleia is another example of how they go over the top of several other layers. And by the time I finished a painting, there'll be several layers. So it's really good to have something to come back to. I think acrylic gouache, regular gouache, no, not so much regular gouache. Let's say acrylic gouache, oil paint. I don't use those at all, but oil paints and acrylic markers would be in this same category of things that you can pretty much rely on to go over everything else you've put down. So in this setting, I've just chosen 3 colors of purple and 3 colors of green. The background is a gouache, and then over the top with some greens. I always use 3 different shades of the same color, or 3 different hues of the same color, values There we go. Values, got the word. Good grief. And it's Friday, isn't it? Probably. 3 values of the same colour. So a light, a medium and a dark. So there's a light, medium and a dark green. And there's a light, medium and a dark purple, because this allows me to get some depth. And as you can see from a distance, and you're enough at a distance for this, you can see that there are flowers. And it's the same with this Dusseldorf Pride here. You can see that there are some flowers, which I think I've got another one here. Let me just move those away, because I'm more than capable of upsetting the whole thing. This here is a full tutorial that I did for my Patreon, so that's available over there, about impressionistic flowers, and you can find that in the collection section if you're over that way. Again, dots and dashes and dots and dabs with 3 values of the same color, and you can clearly see here the dark, medium and light. Sometimes I'll use 4, so there'll be a dark, medium, light and very light, or very dark, medium and light, whatever works at the time, and also whatever I've got to work with, of course. So all of these little flowers and what have you are done with oil pastels. So this is how I use them. Everybody is different, and I'm sure that if you look at 100 different artists' work, you'll see about 300 different ways to use them. So let's have a look at first impressions. I love the sturdy box. It feels good quality, and on the back there is a bit of a palette here. Don't know how accurate that is. We would have to have a look at that, but yeah, there's some nice colours if this is anything to go by. Managed to get a mark on that. That's my fault, not theirs. So let's have an open it up. Like I said, nice, really nice heavy card. Very nice. Very nice presentation. Some foam, and for the big unveiling, we have all of these colours. I'm just going to... Oh, I see these come in 2 separate ones. I'm going to take them out because I want to... Oh, they have come to grief a little bit. I'm in Germany. I'm nowhere near China. They've had to come a long way. We can forgive them for that. I just want to put them together here with this particular colour swatch sample here. I like the fact they've got actually 5 white, because I think if you're a proper, and here air quotes there, proper pastel artist, you will want all of that white. Let's have a look at something and see how close they are to the swatches. This one, I think, is number 32, Forest Green. It's quite close, actually. That is very close indeed. This one's a green I probably wouldn't use very often, although it's very handy if you need it. This one's number 28, Apple Green. That's a little bit different, but I think this is the point of us doing our own swatches. That's the whole reason for it. Now, there are 48 of these colours. Oh yes, there's a little bit of damage there. It doesn't matter. Like I said, they've had to come a long way. 48 colours, and it's a nice colour range. And what I'm looking for, again, because of the way I use them, and everybody is very likely to be different here, the way I use these is I need 3 values of each colour. And, you know, so for example, there are enough yellows. This one here is another one again, and then you've got some browns which tie in with that, because sometimes a value for a particular colour can be a different colour. Yellow's a great example. So I might choose this colour brown and a mid-yellow and then a very light yellow, and that will be my 3 values of that colour. Sometimes it works to choose a dark blue if you want a really dark version of green, because it comes across as because blue and yellow make green, a dark blue comes across as the darkest value for green, and you can use a yellow as the lightest value. So that's sort of also interesting. Interesting layout. I think I would have put this one over here with these, and these, I can rearrange them to suit myself, I'm sure. Maybe they are in number order. 92, 96, 97, 99, 100, not necessarily. Right, so I think what I would like to do now is I would like to know two things. One is how they swatch, and the other is how opaque they are, because opacity is important for me. And if you're a mixed media artist as well, then it will be important to you, because these are the final layer. These, as I said, will go over a lot of things, as in the same with acrylic gouache and, like I said, oil. I think I started that. I'm not sure. Yes, I did finish that point. It's one of those days. Those all go over the top of things, but not much goes over the top of them. So I would never start one of my paintings with oil pastel. I would put that on absolutely last. Right, so got some paper here, just regular sketchbook paper. What we're going to do is I'm just going to make a little bit of room, and we will start, actually they might be better there. We will start taking them out of the box, and we will swatch them. But before I do, I'm going to rule some lines, or draw some lines actually, with probably just a black pencil. Let's just grab, this is an ivory black Derwent drawing pencil, and I'm just going to draw some lines because I'm going to swatch over the top, and this will tell us exactly, we can do more if we need it, this will tell us exactly how opaque they are, because like I started to say, we as mixed media artists will be looking at using these last over the top of everything else, and you don't really want see-through flowers, so that will be a big test for them. I think that you'll find that some of this sort of thing is pigment dependent, like things like a dark blue or a black will be much, much more opaque than the lightest yellows, and you can expect that. Actually, the lightest yellows are more likely to be opaque than the mid yellows, because they may have more of a pigment that makes them opaque in. That happens. Right, so let us get on. I've got myself a clean baby wipe there to wipe my fingers. Let's start with the box as it comes, and the first one up the top is black. That's a bit weird. I think I'd rather go down here and get the white one. Right, white is 01, and just straight off, that's not too bad at all actually. I would tend to smudge them sometimes. Again, it depends what you're using it for. Mostly it would be a dot and dab sort of thing. So the white is very nice. Are good. It's also written on the sleeve. So you've got a number and you've got the actual name, which is very good of them. And you seem, yes, I can see small perforations where these arrows are, so you can tear the paper away as you need it and leave something to hang on to keep your fingers clean. That's always convenient. And what I like about all of these brands, whether they come from China, Mars, Britain, whatever, is I like it when they think about how we use them. It's no point them doing something that's sort of cheap and cheerful, immense profits, not a great product, and a real pain to use, so that you can't wait to use it up. That's not what we want to do. As artists, we're supposed to be enjoying our process, and you can't enjoy it if you're waiting for something to run out so that you can justify putting it in the bin. So I like this. They've thought about it, and that's good. And yeah, having the name on there is good too. And again, written towards the end so that you can tear several off, and there's a little bit before you need to even do that, but you can tear several off, and by then you may have gotten to know what colours what. I won't, but everybody else will. Okay, I'm terrible like that. Even though I use these colours daily, I still don't remember all of the colours. I just, yeah, it's an autistic thing, I suspect. Right, frosty white is very nice, also quite opaque. Don't really need to smudge them very much because, like I said, I don't use them that way, so it's not really much point doing it. So I'm going to use them here pretty much how I would use them. This one is sea salt, and it's number 6. Always important with art materials, if you've got the number and the name, to get both and record both if you're doing that sort of thing, because quite often they will be written in another language. These have got obviously some Chinese writing on it. I don't recognize a single symbol or speak any Chinese. So having it in English with a number is really good, because sometimes you'll look online, and if you look at their swatches online, they won't match up with the names that are on the actual product. And quite often here in Europe, is, you know, stuff's written in French. A lot of it's written in German. I speak German. I have a little bit of French, but nothing nearly as good as the numbers, which are similar. So it's really good to have the number as well. And you can cross-reference it then. If the website says it's this and you've got that, you think, right, well, which one? Oh, right, that was that. And I've had a few times where it's actually bails me out of problems. This one, lovely and opaque. This one is lead grey. And again, even when it's smudged a little bit, it's still reasonably opaque. I chose the black from the Derwent drawing set because it's actually quite a creamy and thick pencil, and it's harder to cover up than a lot of other things. Sorry, my dog's about to start. Do you mind? Thinks the postman's here. Sky blue is next. That's also very good. I find too that when I fix these, they do seal onto the page quite well. This one's lake blue, and they don't sort of go anywhere else. So they may not be dry under the fixative, but they will stay put. Bluish green. Really nice colours and super, super creamy, really soft. I hardly have to put any pressure on them at all. So if you're after a very soft effect, this one's soft blue, then they're really brilliant. Wow. And as you can see, quite covering that mark quite well. Peacock green. Oh, that's nice. And then autumn wave blue, very nice too. You can see that the opacity does depend, and that's fine. That's absolutely normal. Prussian blue. It's not anything to do with the quality of the brand quite often. If they're all really, really low pigment, these have got a very good pigment payoff. If they're all really low pigment, you're looking at a student grade quality or studio grade quality, sometimes they use, or academy, anything like that. Sometimes they're quite, sneaky. Winsor & Newton, for example, their Cotman range, that doesn't give any indication, if you just have those few words, that that is their slightly lesser quality for students range, but it is. And sometimes, because the pigment is the most expensive part of an art material, they will have less of it. And in a student grade quality or any lower grade quality, usually for children, those sorts of things, the pigment just isn't there, and that also affects how opaque it is at times. So these are really good and very, very bright. Ultramarine blue. That's quite a true ultramarine blue too. Very nice. I did white, so let's start with greens. Yeah, so I'm quite impressed. That's good. I'm not putting much pressure on, as I said, because I can't. They're so soft and creamy. Basically, holding them onto the paper will make a mark, I suspect. Yeah, there we go. That's a nice green. That's going to get some use. Moss green. I do wish these were available in open stock, but nearly all of these aren't in these sets, so we just have to get what we get. Forest green. And try not to get too upset about it. Forest green, and this one is sapphire green. That's new. I would have thought sapphire was blue, but I'm not judging. That's really, really, really dense. I like the colours. I also, because I love muted colours, I'm enjoying the fact that they're not all garish. In fact, there aren't any here that are, I mean, for example, I don't like neon colours. However, because I'm going to use these for flowers, I'm going to need these sorts of pinks and purples that I wouldn't normally actually buy. I'm going to need them. Not my favourite green. That one is deep green. Yeah, it's a bit too Christmassy and lolly green for me. So I'm just going to a bit of a play with the grey. Brings it down a bit, maybe. It's not really. Red's the way to make green behave as a rule. Yeah, that's a bit better. They mix nicely. Obviously, the more I spread it out, the more it will become less opaque, and you can see the line underneath, but it knocked that colour green back, which is what I like, because that's way too bright. That won't get much use. What else have we got here? Cedar green. But I think if you're getting a set of colours and there's one colour in there that you don't like, that's a win. Cedar green, very nice too. And into the yellows, we have mustard yellow. It's a very light mustard. This is usually what we associate with mustard yellow in, if you were knitting, for example. But here it's more likely to be an ochre. Milk duck yellow. Interesting name. I like that. Milk duck yellow is nice. It's upsetting that black line underneath a little bit. But again, that's because of the fact that these have got oil in them. That it's going to mix and it's going to react with what's underneath. So you've got to be careful. So this is why when I make my flowers, I don't do sweeping strokes as a rule. It's more dots and dashes and very, very careful, because sometimes what's under it is gouache, and gouache is just sitting there waiting to be upset and turned to mud. So yeah, got to be careful how you make the marks. This one is lemon yellow. Yeah. None of these are liking that black under there, but this is just a test, so it's fine. This one is chrome yellow. Not as opaque as you would expect. As I said, sometimes it's pigment dependent. Gold leaf yellow. It's nice. What was this one in the end? Is it an ochre? No, it's an apricot yellow. I wouldn't have said that was an apricot yellow, but then, like I said, I didn't name them. That's fine. That's a very nice colour and nice and muted. Anything muted will get my vote every time. And like I said, these sorts of colours, this very, very bright green over here and this Christmassy green here, no. But all of these others, yes. And this is actually not too bad either. Really good for highlighting something. Mocha brown. That will get used. Very nice. They're all going to get used. Probably the browns are a bit weird actually, because I want this for a flower set. You wouldn't get a lot of those. However, in the autumn and winter, when things are dying in the hedgerows, that's when you need browns to paint things that were flowers and are now seed heads. So never rule it out. It's just a matter of knowing what you do, knowing what your practice is, and knowing what you need. Tea brown. I don't want to start a debate about what colour tea should be, but it's a nice beige colour and very useful. Yeah, so for seed heads and things, ferns that are dyed, all of these are nice colours. Bluish brown. Not quite as opaque, but the way I'm going to use it, it wouldn't matter. Dark wood brown. Nice for rocks too. Right, so that's that lot of browns. There are some more browns coming up here, but we'll do it in order, just to be fair and so that I know where I'm up to. Vine purple. That'll make a good flower colour. And this one's nice too. This one is taro purple. Very good. Hyacinth. Yep, that's not too bad. That's not a purple I'm fond of as a rule, but this is a pretty good version of it. It's slightly dirty. Interstellar purple, that's an interesting name. Lovely colour. I love that. And this one, Again, there is another light purple there. We'll leave that skin colour. Maybe, yep. And if you're a portrait artist, this would be useful. It's not terribly opaque, but then again, if you're going to paint a human, you're not going to use it the way I'm going to use it. Ceramic red. That's quite nice. Again, a lovely natural colour. I tend to paint the natural world in some form or another. Vibrant orange. It is good for foxes. There are not actually, now that I look at this, if I had to make one teensy change, the oranges are not very present. That's an orange. This is orangish. And that's sort of an orange. Looks very vermilion. It's orange red. That would do as an orange. So yeah, the pure orange isn't sort of here as much. Only that one there. Pastel pink. Nice. Very, again, very useful for highlighting other pinks. Come on, come out. All the others have. Spring plum pink. Also nice. I've not met many that I would think, okay, that can go up for adoption. Rouge pink. Red pink, that would be as a rule. But yeah, there aren't many here that I'd say I'm not going to use. That's probably the only contender that stands out. Coral pink, and I may even get to like that if it's in context. Oh, that's lovely. I like that. Okay, so here is another fox colour, orange red. Yeah, that would be really good for foxes, and that would go with it quite nicely. Foxes to me are a little bit like mushrooms. There's something addictive about them. I don't know, there are so many plants in our world, but I'm drawn to mushrooms. And I'm not alone. A lot of people say the same thing. Foxes, again, we have huge amounts of animals on our planet, different varieties. Yet foxes are slightly addictive. I don't know why. Bright red. If you have a theory, do leave it in the comments. I can't think of any reason, and I grew up in a farm in Australia and could see the destruction that they caused, but I still love them. Vermilion red. Very similar to the last one. What was that? Got carried away with foxes. I do apologise. This one is bright red. This one is vermilion red. So yeah. That'll teach me to just keep going on autopilot. Foxes aren't important at the moment. We're swatching colours. This one is brownish red. Very opaque. Wow. The line has disappeared. Another pink here that if I wasn't painting flowers, I wouldn't touch with a barge pole. Rose red. But because of flowers, it's very nice. This one is mauve. Another very, very opaque one. I like this colour coming up. This is very nice. Coffee brown. Not when I make it, it's not. But anyway, very nice. Very pucey, sort of a purple. Lots of mauve tones in there too. And dark coffee, right? So that was coffee brown. That's more like it. Dark coffee. I like my coffee strong enough to show up on a blood test, so that would be mine. Pitch black, as it says on the can. It is extremely black. Right. Well, okay. They're lovely and creamy. They are nice and opaque. They blend well. You can probably knock back some of the colours if you need to with other colours, sort of dirty them slightly. I don't need to because of the way I use them, but you certainly could if you have a different usage. Nice range of colours, and like I said, nice lot of whites, because whites tend to, it's the same with gouache. You'll buy it's all right to buy tiny little tubes of all the colours, but your white tube, you need 3 strong men to carry it into the house. And that's only a month's worth. So it's good to have these extra colours depending on how you work. Now, what I thought would be a good thing to do next now is to incorporate a mini favourite 5 into this swatching session, because I do know they're very, very popular. And I'm going to use some of these. It may not be 5, but I'll choose some colours. And I'm going to finish a sketch that I have started with this in mind, actually. And just find it in here. It's on one of these pages. Oh, actually, that is good that I found him. I've used some pastels on his back too to make a sort of a hairy, if I bring that up a little bit closer might be better, sort of to show that he's made of fur, because all of the rest of this is gouache and inks, various inks, gouache and things like that, coloured pencil. But the fox is acrylic marker with oil pastels over the top, and again something was needed to be able to show how bright his fluffy tail is on the end, so it's perfect for that too. So actually I'm glad I had that. Here it is, finally. Right, so what I've done here is I have started a mixed media picture, and I've started with a pan pastel sky. I've started with gouache for the sea and the sand and all this and so forth like that. And actually it's all gouache at this point in time. Just some marks. Oh, these are some coloured pencil in here as well. Just some random marks to build on. So what I would be wanting to do is to grab one of these. We could start off to put some marks where you would find the waves coming in. And again, as you can see, I'm using, I say impressionistic, it's not pure impressionism, but it's as close as I'm ever going to get. What I'm trying to do is just give an indication of white, sort of sea foam, where you would expect to see it. And the flowers, for example, we could, let's go with yellows. So I'm going to choose 3 yellows, and I always start off with a darker yellow. And again, I'm just putting marks to get the process started. I have an idea in my head, because this is just out of my head, so do forgive me. This is what goes on in my brain. I have an idea of what I want this to look like. I'm not worried about stems, and I have an idea of where these flowers are supposed to be and how big. I'm not sure what they are. It's just, like I said, it's in my imagination. So I'd start off with quite a dark yellow. Then I would progress to something in the middle and decide where the light's coming from. In nearly all of my paintings, the light comes in from the left-hand side. So I'm going to put any highlights to this side. That's not enough of a difference in colour, which was predicted actually. So I'm going to go with lemon yellow. I started out with gold leaf, I think. Yes, gold leaf yellow. That's better, because you want something that's going to pop. And these are a bit thick, so I'm going to fix them when I'm finished, and that will help to keep them where I want them. Okay, little bits. And you can see that that gives them some dimensions. And the last colour you choose is the lightest one you can manage. That one's a bit close to that one. This one might work, or it might be better to go with white. Sometimes you can also leave the two colour values. You don't always have to have 3. Like I said before earlier on in the video, you can sometimes have 4. You don't always have to have 3, I meant to say. Yeah, I don't know that. Just going to do this on the tops because I don't know that it's showing up very much, and I don't think it's needed terribly much. Now, I've very cleverly done that, not thinking ahead very far at all, because I'd also like to put some pink ones in. So where could we put those? Let's choose a darkish pink. This one is vermilion red. It just looks a bit pink to me. And I'm just going to put some random marks across the top here. These are obviously further away, so you're going to see a lot less of them, and how they, it doesn't matter what they are. That's the other good thing about this. And you can add things like this to just about any picture. It doesn't matter what they are because they're so far away. It's just that when we look at this, we'll see those as being flowers. And as you can see already, without doing anything else, how much that's brought everything up and given it a pop of colour. Colours that I just wouldn't normally use. I'm going to go for Rouge Pink next because it's enough of a difference to give these some dimension. And bits and pieces. So as you can see, it doesn't have to be much. Sometimes you can put some in other places, and I leave some. So whatever it is being carried on the wind over there. Right, so what would I do for the lightest one? Let's have a look at this. This is the lightest pink on offer. This is Spring Plum Pink, and oh gosh, excuse me, my light just went out because I forgot to plug it in, and the battery only goes so long, so I do apologise. I don't think I'd bother with this either. There's not enough variation to be able to see, and it doesn't add anything to the picture. You could go darker with this. For example, we could go down to this rose red and add that in, but that's not going to add much either. So I probably wouldn't do that. I'd just leave it. 2 is enough. You just need more than 1. If the flowers are very small and very far away, you can get away with 1 colour, but the closer they come, the more you need to sort of pick things out. I would like an excuse to use green, and I'd like an excuse to use this green, cedar green. So what I'm going to do is use it to make some leaf-like marks, because this will add some depth. You'll notice, if you have a look at the writing on the tube, you'll notice that it's moving around. What I'm trying to do is access the sharpest bit. That's quite a light green. And the reason I've not gone with 3 colours there is because there's already quite a lot of depth. But if you wanted to, forest green, that would be another one, and you might add some of that in. I don't know that it adds a lot to the picture because, like I said, there's already a lot going on in there. And what else can we do? I think we're probably about there, aren't we? Maybe just add some little white flowers that might grow in between. Because, of course, no one's gardening up here on the cliffs. So these could be anything as well. But add to the richness of your page. That's probably as much as I would do on that. But this is the first time I've used them. Like I said, you're seeing them at the same time as I am. Really nice to use, actually. They feel super, super creamy. Managed to get a mark on there. That's typical. Doesn't matter. They feel really super creamy to use. And even though, you know, this was a perfectly acceptable picture before as just a bit of a seascape, the sparkles on the water, because it's gouache under there, it sort of skipped across the surface and made these very nice sparkles. So you could add quite a lot of light to the water with them. See, you could go in, can't leave anything alone. This is me fiddling. Shout stop to stop me. I'm sure I'll hear you. Bluish green. You could come in and add texture with these other colours as well. I feel there's enough in the gouache, actually, and like I said, you can't see that very much, the same as you couldn't see the others, so leaving it alone is probably the best idea. Yeah, just those little impressionistic flowers. I don't want to paint everything in perfect focus. And if you want depth and dimension in your work, you have to use less detail for stuff that's in the background. See, for example, here we go again. For example, here in this middle ground, you can do this. As it goes over to the back, you might just have a little bit of colour that's visible. No other highlights, nothing else. That's it. Leave it alone. Because those are a lot further away. This is also an area where you might smudge them a little bit, and you can use your finger. You can use a tortillon. Let me see if I can find one of those real quick, because no, not that drawer. I know there are some in here somewhere. Oh, good. I've got them. This is a tortillon blending stump, and you can use this to blend these in the background if you need some of them to disappear or just be less visible than the front ones, because the closer things come to you, the more detail they require in order to look more believable. I've said this to my students, and if any of my patrons are on here, I do apologize for this next bit because you've heard this ad nauseum. We're not going for realistic. This is not photorealism. Anybody who looked at that would say, oh yeah, it's a pretty painting. They wouldn't say, no, is that a photo or is it real? No one's going to say that. What we're after is believable, not realistic. So people who look at this will say, instead of saying, what are all the yellow splotches? Well, they're flowers. And the flowers need to speak for themselves. You can't be standing there with subtitles and pointing and saying these are flowers. And this is the thing with this sort of method that happens, because you look at this and you accept that this is a seascape. There's a bit of a rocky outcrop. You can see some sand, and in the foreground are some flowers. And that is just achieved with dots and dashes. It's Morse code painting. I might call it that in future instead of Impressionism, because otherwise the great Impressionists of our past will be turning in their graves. Yeah, so as for this set, I recommend it. I like it. I will use it again. And I'm very, very happy for Lightwish for thinking of me and sending it. I'm impressed with everything they've sent to me so far, actually. There are a couple of, like I said, there are some other road tests on here, so that's in the road test playlist, but I would really think that these are very nice indeed. Now, I am going to ask them if there's a discount code for you, so do check in the description box. And like I said, leave a like, leave a comment, and that helps my channel to grow, helps more people to be reached by my art. And if you like what you see and would like to learn to paint like this in a more sort of relaxed setting and a bit slower, all the steps laid out, please consider joining my Patreon. I would love to see you. Apart from that, I shall see you next time, and take care, and I hope you get some art in. Bye for now. Bye.